Hi, good morning, everybody. Welcome to this assembly. Strange times, but welcome to everybody. We're very, very privileged and honoured to have Elliot Daly with us this morning. Elliot's actually an old Whitgiftian and came through the Wasps academy system. Ended up playing 188 caps for them. Then moved to Saracens, but I think an international career of 48. I don't know whether they've updated that, Elliot. I mean, I think it's 48 or maybe 49 after Saturday. But more importantly, 3 tests for the British and Irish Lions in that dramatic drawn series in 2017 versus the All Blacks. So maybe you can tell us some of that, some stories there. But an interesting fact that I found out about Elliot is that he's actually played for and against the British Lions and scored tries for both against them and for them. In 2013, he played for the Barbarians against the British Lions on the way to Australia. So another interesting fact. Utility back can play probably centre, wing, fullback. Quite interesting to know which is his favourite position. But welcome, Elliot. Challenging times for during this. Tell us a bit about life as a professional rugby player, an international rugby player at this time.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Yeah, it's difficult. Obviously, it's the government have put some rules in, and we've got to be very stringent in what we do. Obviously, because if one of us gets it, then there's a likelihood that 10 or 15 of the lads might be out. So yeah, it's pretty strict around here, but it's what it needs to be able to get back on the pitch. So well, I think we just want to do as much as we can to get back out there. So it's working so far, thank God.
Yeah. It's a tough day on Saturday, but I mean, England's a great team, and I suppose as being a sportsman, you can't win all the time, and it's I suppose facing the challenge of when you do have a loss and the bounce back. Could you tell us a bit about Saturday and your thoughts about the game against Scotland?
Yeah, I just think we were pretty ill-disciplined in what we did, and we gave them a lot of ins to the game. And when you give they're a quality team at the end of the day, and when you give them that many opportunities in your half, they're going to come away with points. So I think to limit them only to 11 points for the amount of times they came in our 22 is one of our positives, maybe. But I think not allowing them in there from sort of the minute one would have been better. But I think obviously, as you said, you can't really dwell on these things. You've got to take it into this week and hopefully put a good performance against Italy this Saturday.
Yeah. Do you centre, wing, and fullback? I mean, which is your preferred position, or doesn't it? You just want to play? How do you see your position on the field?
I think it's different for me for club level and for international rugby. I think for club level, I love to play 13 just to get the ball in my hands a little bit more, try and create things for other people. But I think internationally, there's so many good players that wherever you play, you seem to get the ball. So whether that's the wing, fullback, or 13, I'm not too bothered when it comes to this environment. Just want to try and get in the team every week, try and push myself to be the best player that I can be. So yeah, with the quality round in the squad at the moment, it's pretty exciting.
That's fantastic. I think at this stage, Mr. Skeen, I think you should hand over to the boys to ask some questions. I think they've had enough of my voice.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Bailey. Johnny, do you want to fire away with your question for Elliot, please?
Hi, my question to you was, what's your kind of favourite or best junior rugby moment?
Yeah, that's a good question, actually. Probably for me, it was I used to play in Beckenham, which is in Kent, and they didn't have, at the time, they didn't have leagues. It was sort of friendlies, and then we used to play tournaments to see who sort of was the best in the county. But I moved to Surrey after that and played for Dorking Rugby Club, and we got promoted twice in a row. So I think for me, it was that. I think because I like to win, I'm quite competitive. Being in the environment of not having a winner or a loser at the end of a game or end of a season didn't really sit very well with me. So moving to Dorking and then getting promoted twice was probably my best moment, definitely. With I think just for me, I think it's so important to be, when you get to elite sport, it's so important to be competitive, because that's what drives you to be the best you can be. So for me, it was trying to harness that, and yeah, it was definitely those 2 seasons there.
Thank you.
Thank you, Johnny. So our next question is going to be from Joseph.
What would you say would separate you from everyone else in your position in England to like make the team consistently?
That's also a good question. I think it's a difficult question because obviously the game's ever changing. There's young lads coming through. I'm not old yet. I wouldn't call myself old, but I'm 28 now, so I'm getting a little bit. But I think what I try to do is try and get better with every day in training and every day during games, and look back on what I can do better in games and try and learn from it quickly. I think the quicker you learn from your mistakes, or the quicker you learn from what can make you better, the more likely you are going to be consistently picked. And then it's just all about how you train. I think training's a massive tool for us. The way we train is always over game intensity. So for me, it's about going out there and training well every day, putting in the hard yards, whether it's in the gym or outside on the pitch, and being as fit and as strong as I can be to then hopefully get a position in the team and try and keep hold of it. But as I said, it's a difficult one. There's so many talented people in this squad, so you've got to keep improving every day and not be afraid to be yourself. Whether that is running from your own line or doing that, if that's what you do and that's what you're good at, just stick to that.
Devan is in year 12 here at Rugby School. Off you go, Devan.
Hello, Elliot. My question is, how do you find that balance in your life when you have so much rugby training and fixtures in gym, and then also you want to spend time with family and mates and all that?
Yeah, it's difficult actually. It was difficult for me because I used to be at Wasp, where we were in London, and then we got moved to Coventry, sort of 3 years before my sort of last game for them. And I didn't have any family or friends in Coventry, so it was a very team-based. You sort of saw your teammates all the time, which was brilliant because it got those bonds really, really close. But you end up missing out on friends' birthdays, family birthdays, that type of thing, just because of where you're situated. For me now, it was a big pull for Sarries was to be closer to sort of my parents. I'm from Croydon originally, so South London. So just to be able to, and my fiance as well, she's from the same area. So for us, it was about being closer to family, closer to friends, and sort of. But I probably got that balance slightly wrong when we moved to Coventry. But I think now I understand how important it is to keep those people in your life to sort of keep you sane and not always down the rugby path.
Thank you. And our next question comes from Aston. Aston is in year 12.
Morning, Elliot. My question is, without the money and without the fame, why would you play rugby in the first place, and why would you keep playing rugby?
For me, I just absolutely love it. I think anything, as I said before, I'm so competitive. So I played a lot of sports growing up, played a lot of cricket as well as rugby. And I think for me, it's the enjoyment I get out of it, the camaraderie with the people next to you. It's one of those things that you can't really explain. I think from the World Cup for us, we were together for sort of 16, 17 weeks, which is a long time, more time than you spend with anyone really, more time you spend with your parents now for me, definitely. So the bonds we made on that trip will be sort of everlasting for us, and I think the memories we made on the pitch are even better. So yeah, for me it's just about making those bonds and those memories with the people that you play with. I think we've got a good culture here at the moment, and it's going in the right direction, so hopefully we can keep doing that.
Thanks ever so much. Our next question comes from Jamie. So Jamie's in year 11. Fire away.
Morning, Elliot. Are there any things that you like to do before, like at big games, or any like pre-game rituals? Is there like a song that you listen to? Is there something that you do with your teammates that like really psychs you up?
For me, I've been working on this a little bit actually. We've got a really good psychologist here who looks at how you can sort of make those little percentage increases in your game and be mentally sort of ready for the game. And I think for me, it's about just the night before. For me, I write 3 things I want to get out of the game, and then sort of try and visualize how they're going to happen in the game. Obviously, you don't know how they're going to happen, but for me, it's about trying to bring those 3 things. There might be the 3 most important things. There might be 3 really small things, but if you can bring them into the game, then at least you're thinking about it before the day and before it all happens. So think that's a big thing for me. I used to sort of just go out there and play, which I kind of do at the moment a little bit, but I try and put some more structure into it. So I can sort of, at the end of the game, look at myself and say, right, have I done these 3 things today for the team? And has that helped the team win, or what do I need to change for next week? So we're doing quite a lot of that at the moment, which I think is really beneficial. Definitely the visualization stuff, just under serious pressure when you get into crowds that are very loud and stuff, you can just concentrate on the 3 things that you set out to do in the first place.
Thanks ever so much, Jamie. Now, unfortunately, we've had a few technical issues, and our current first 15 captain, Isaac, really wanted to ask you a question, but he's not been able to get online. So just on Isaac's behalf, he wants to know, do you find there to be much difference between the quality of play between the Gallagher Premiership and international games such as the Six Nations?
Yeah, you probably do. Definitely, the intensity's a lot higher. Obviously, when you get the best people in the country playing against each other, so the likes of last weekend, they've got quality players around the pitch, and I think obviously for the Premiership for me is where sort of I learnt all my stuff, and it's a brilliant competition. It's got some brilliant players in it, but the intensity of international rugby is something you probably can't quite explain. It's just constant. It's everyone seems to be everyone's physical, everyone's can attack from anywhere, everyone's got good hands, so it's one of those where you have to be constantly aware of what's going on, and yeah, I definitely think it's just the intensity is the difference.
Brilliant. And again, we've had another technical issue with Ollie Orms-Smith, a student in year 12. He wants to know, professional rugby is a physically and mentally demanding game. What drives you and incentivizes you to carry on pushing yourself to become a better player, both mentally and physically?
I think this environment is brilliant. I think the England environment is one where if you put 10% in, you'll get sort of 30-40% back, because the amount of staff we've got, the amount of expertise we've got around the sort of where we are now is unbelievable. And I think for me it's about wanting to be as good a player as I can possibly be, and you're never the perfect, and you're never going to be the best player in the world all the time, but if that's what drives you, that's what drives you, and that's what drives me. And I think being as competitive as I am, I want to try and do that every day, and whether that is such a small thing as a small gym session, or I want to lift the heaviest, I want to do this, or I want to run the fastest, I want to be the guy who's always pushing the boundaries. And I think for me, that if I can continue to do that, it will hopefully carry on my career a little bit longer.
That's brilliant, thank you. I'd like to hand back now to Mr. Bailey, who wants to catch up with you a little bit about your schoolboy rugby.
Young men, to take us back to your Whitgift days. I presume you played 2 years, first 15 there. What are your kind of great memories about that time?
I think for me it was a brilliant time. I think it was the first Daily Mail we won was amazing, really, because we hadn't won one for I don't know how many years, but it was quite a few years, and we obviously had a very good team that year. But to do it in such style, I think we won the last game sort of 34-10 in the final, which was a brilliant result. And I think the anticipation for that year was brilliant. And I think we played John Fisher in the 6th round, which was our basically rivals, who are about 2 miles down the road. And I think that was one of the best games I've ever played in, just because, even to this day, just because of the pure atmosphere that was created there. I think there was like 5,000 people at Whitgift, which was obviously on a small pitch, looked pretty ridiculous. So, but I think the second year for me was even better, because the second year when I was in upper 6th, it was all the people I came through school with, played all my rugby with, and we probably didn't have as good a team that year, but I think something just clicked with us all, and we all just wanted to go out there and have a bit of fun, and ended up getting to the final and playing really well and winning it, which was amazing, really. And I think that will stick in my memory for a long time.
That's brilliant. I'll just kind of couple of this, winding up a little bit. Tell us a bit about your experience to playing rugby in the Southern Hemisphere, as you probably know. I'm a South African, and you actually got your first start against South Africa, I think, in 2016, I think. But the British and Irish Lions in New Zealand. I mean, that must be a wonderful occasion. The whole kind of tour and experience.
Yeah, that was brilliant. I think that tour was one where I didn't think probably I was going to be involved in. So to be named and go was brilliant. And then I just decided I was just out there to try and play as well as possible and see what happens. And yeah, luckily got picked for 3 test matches, which was probably more than I ever thought would happen. And yeah, just tried to grab it with 2 hands and play as well as possible. But yeah, the experience of going on tour there was brilliant. And to mix all those nations together was an interesting one at the start, but it was, everyone was there and understood what we needed to do. We needed to get to know each other quickly and have a good time. And I think you could see that the way we played in the last test match. I think it all sort of came together and we played pretty well in that second test match as well. So no, yeah, it was definitely an experience that was very unique, and hopefully have a chance to do it again. But yeah, playing rugby in South Africa for me was really good as well. It was interesting. It was hostile. I think when we went the first test over there, it was at altitude as well. So you go in and you're instantly hit by both those things, which is good. You're able to kick a ball a bit further, which is good as well. But yeah, it's just a whole different experience where you haven't experienced that before, and it's a very testing environment. But yeah, that was brilliant to play in. Yeah.
Yeah, that's a typical South African thing to put touring teams at high altitude that were the first up. So you've experienced that firsthand. Yeah. So I mean, the conditions are different from the Northern Hemisphere. Would you say? I mean, playing rugby in the Southern Hemisphere, probably slightly drier, probably better conditions to play rugby in. Wouldn't you say, or on average?
Yeah, I think I definitely thought when we went to South Africa and Australia, definitely. New Zealand was very much like England for me. I think in all 3 test matches it poured down in Auckland and at the Westpac Stadium. So yeah, it was interesting. I thought it would be, to be honest, I didn't really know too much about New Zealand. So going over there, the amount they love the All Blacks is crazy. But the support we had over 30,000 people just following us around, camping outside the hotel and going around New Zealand doing their own thing, which was unbelievable to have that support just outside the door. I mean, you could hear them from when you're having breakfast outside to when the game ended. So yeah, it was brilliant. But yeah, it did rain a lot, which was testing for the skills. But it just shows how good the All Blacks are when they chuck the ball around in those conditions.
Yeah. All right, thanks, Elliot. I'm going to hand you over to Debbie again. I think she's got a couple more questions that have just come online.
Yeah, thank you, Mike. Yeah, we've had a few questions from our attendees watching the assembly today. First one is from Mr. Atley, who's our head strength and conditioning coach. He wants to know, with Sarries not playing recently, the media built up the lack of game time a number of players had coming into the tournament. How much of an impact do you feel this had?
I don't think it did have an impact. I think for us, we don't get rested very often as rugby players. So for us to have, we sort of had 3 weeks off after the last campaign, and then we had 3-4 weeks of pretty tough training to get back up to physical condition for this. And I think the way we had a week beforehand to get sort of prepped for it, and I think the way we train here, as I said earlier, is over game intensity. So you do more in the Wednesday than you do in the game on a Saturday. So for us, yeah, I don't think it made too much of a difference. But obviously we didn't get a result, and hopefully we get one this weekend.
Oh, thank you. And another question that's come in is, which meant more to you out of your first caps, your England cap or your first Lions cap?
I think for me, my first England cap. I think I I was 24 at the time, and I was in and around the squad for a little bit, but never sort of making that sort of final leap to get into the squad. So for me to get into the squad and get my first cap was brilliant, and without that, I wouldn't have gone on the Lions tour. So yeah, definitely for me, it's my England cap.
Brilliant, thank you. Alex Thompson, one of our members of the SER, he'd like to know if you could change one of the laws of rugby to improve the game for a player or spectator, what would it be and why?
That's a good question. Something to do with the scrum. I don't know what, but just try and make that a little bit quicker. That'd be nice. Maybe if they're 10 meters back from the scrum as well, that'd be quite fun as well.
The question is just, can you tell us what it's been like in terms of in the stadium versus crowd versus no crowd? How have you noticed the difference?
Yeah, it's very different. I think definitely at Twickenham you feel it even more. Obviously we got used to that feeling in the last campaign. That was the first campaign we've had internationally with no fans. So yeah, it's very different. You have to kind of get your own energy and make sure that you're ready to go personally and as a team. You can't really feed off anything in the stadium. It's all pretty eerily quiet. So the one thing you do is hear a lot more from the coaches on the sideline, because obviously you don't hear that usually when there's 80,000 or 82,000 at Twickenham. So yeah, we talk about it a lot, but it's about trying to create your own energy, because obviously you can't feed off the crowd at all, really.
So talking of energy, who is the most fun on your Six Nations camp to hang out with at the minute?
I'd say Anthony Watson's up there. He's just pretty chilled out. We get on pretty well. But yeah, I think at the moment it's very difficult. As I said, it's you can't really hang out with each other at the moment. So it's one of those things where you just have to make the most of these little conversations you have. But yes, as soon as we can, we'll be getting back to having a coffee. But we're allowed to sit outside for a coffee. But it is -2 today, so I don't think anybody's going to be doing that.
Another question from one of our students, Tom Taylor, one of our Rugby boys. He'd like to know what things that you do post-match. So you probably have pre-match rituals. Do you have a post-match ritual?
No, usually just go and see, obviously not now, but we go and see the opposition, and just if you know anybody there, go and have a chat with them. And it's good to catch up. That's the only time you really get to have a chat with them. But yeah, then it's just if celebrating or just having a drink with the team after the game. I think that's the biggest thing for me. Win or lose, just to make sure that we're ready for the next week and what's going to happen, really.
Oh, brilliant. Elliot, thank you so much. I know your time is extremely precious at the moment, and I think we've been told that we've got to wrap there by the powers that be behind you. We could literally talk to you all day, but thank you so much. And hopefully when all this COVID is gone, we'll welcome you back to Rugby School, and you can come and see us live and come and visit us on the sacred ground that is the Close. So thank you so much, Elliot.
Thanks very much. Cheers.
Thanks, Elliot.
Bye.